Episode 88, The World's Greatest Executive Coach, Marshall Goldsmith. Welcome to The Art of Excellence, a show about people doing extraordinary things in their lives. I'm your host, Glenn Zweig. Thanks for joining me. My guest today is Marshall Goldsmith. Marshall has been recognized as the world's leading executive coach and has advised more than 200 major CEOs and their management teams. He is the New York Times bestselling author of many books, including What Got You Here Won't Get You There, Mojo, and Triggers. His latest book is titled The Earned Life, Lose Regret, Choose Fulfillment. Marshall, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thrilled to have you on. So where I wanted to start is you sign all of your emails with "Life is good." And this isn't something new. You've been doing this for decades, going back at least 20, 25 years, maybe more. Is this the Buddhist in you coming out?
Probably. I've been studying Buddhism since I was about 19. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I've always been, and also I just feel like a very lucky person, very, very blessed and had a good life.
Yeah. On the Buddhism, I think I had read that you were a self-professed hippie back in the day,
yeah.
60s, maybe early 70s. And was that's where you had discovered Buddhism?
Yeah, I was back in the day, hard to imagine, but yeah, I was, I was a hippie back in the day. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was it about Buddhism that obviously didn't just catch you then, but stuck with you all these years?
Well, there are many schools of Buddhist thought.
Uh-huh.
So when someone says they're a Buddhist, it actually tells you very little. The variations in Christianity are smaller than the variations in Buddhism. So there are many variants. So Paul Hersey taught me a great lesson, my old mentor: never argue about definitions. So I'll just tell you what my version of Buddhism is about.
Okay.
Not that it's right or wrong. My version is not a religious version at all. It's a philosophical version. So you can be any religion you want to and believe like I believe. My Buddhist philosophy is this. Buddha was brought up, or at least the metaphorical Buddha was brought up being rich. His father was a king and he was protected from life. And he lived in a bubble and he was able to sneak out 3 times. The first time he sneaks out, you know what he learned? People get old. Oh, not so good. Sneaks out a second time, people get sick. Ooh. Third time, die. Ooh, old, sick, die. He thought, that's not so great. He thought this be happy with more stuff doesn't work. He went out in the woods and starved himself and lived like a hermit. And he really tried to find peace and happiness with less. And you know what he found out? That didn't work either. So ultimately, what did he believe? What did he find out? You can never be happy with more. You can never be happy with less. There's only one thing you can find happiness and peace with: what you have. There's only one time, now. There's only one place, here. So in my school of Buddhism, where's Nirvana? Talking to some old guy on a podcast. Here it is. It's not out there someplace. It's right here.
Yeah, that's no, I like that definition. So understand this question here is coming from a complete place of ignorance on my part, because I don't study Buddhism. When I think of you, one of the greatest leadership coaches in the history of leadership coaching, in the history of executive coaching, you pretty much, invented the field, if you will. But I assume one of those reasons is because of your track record, creating long-lasting, meaningful changes in your clients, which ultimately you measure by success. Right. Success in them measured by success in these companies.
Right.
So isn't quote unquote success in itself somewhat antithetical to the teaching of Buddha?
Yes and no. Isn't that antithetical to success? Depends upon how you define success.
Okay.
And if you think happiness and peace is a function of success as defined by result, you are wrong. That is indeed a fool's game. Here's why it doesn't work. One, you don't control the outcomes or the results. You didn't control COVID or make up COVID. That's impacted by thousands of variables. But number two, what happens after you achieve the results? How much happiness and peace does that bring? None. What are you, a week, a month? How long? You got to do more. The Buddhist term for this is called the hungry ghost, always eating but never full. Now, to me, I don't define success as results. I find success much more, are you doing something that is connected to your higher aspirations? Are you achieving something that's meaningful and you enjoy the process?
So can I ask you on that note, do you find when I say some of the most successful executives successful and how some of them define success, right, accomplishments, right, building value in corporate America, et cetera, that some of those most successful executives are also some of the most miserable on the inside?
I'd say there's very low correlation. Let me just use a number: financial success.
Okay.
There's a very low correlation between financial success and happiness. Are these people happier statistically? No. Are they more miserable? No. There's almost no correlation between financial success and happiness beyond a certain point. Once you get beyond a lower middle class income, there's almost no relationship between money and happiness. I mean, half the people that I work with right now are billionaires. And, they have the same problems as everyone else. The great Western myth is everything's going to be okay when I get the money, status, BMW, condominium, when I make the achievement, it's all going to be good when. There really isn't a win.
Mm-hmm. Because no matter what mountain you climb, there's always another mountain to be climbed. There's always a higher peak.
Right. And it's no wonder we believe this way. The great Western art form is you may have seen this before, Glenn. You might have seen this drama before. There's a person, and that person is sad. Oh, so sad. They spend money and they buy a product and they become happy. This is called a commercial. Yeah. Glenn, have you ever seen one of these commercials before? How many times? How many thousand times, right?
Yeah. So I want to go back to you for a minute here, Marshall.
Sure.
So you get your PhD in the 70s.
Right.
This is years, if not decades, before executive coaching would become in vogue.
Yeah, there was nothing called executive.
There was nothing called executive coaching. So what was the game plan when you originally went that route? What were you thinking you would be doing with your life?
Well, number one, there was no game plan. I mean, I'm from Valley Station, Kentucky. My entire business experience was pumping gasoline in Valley Station, Kentucky.
Because that's what your father had, a gas station, right?
Yeah. And my high school ranked next to last in Kentucky in academic achievement, and my elementary school was the lowest one in the high school. So I was not brought up at Harvard Prep. So if you ask me what was my game plan, I don't really think I had a game plan. I just wanted to, do okay.
Right. There weren't role models for higher education in that small town, I take it.
Yeah, not so much. We had an outhouse the first 4 years I was in school, so that what that means. We didn't have indoor plumbing, so it was a little on the rustic side, you might say. Well, what happened with coaching though is how to get into this. I'll talk about how I got into leadership development, then coaching, because they're connected. I got into leadership development because I got lucky. I met a very, very famous man named Dr. Paul Hersey. Hersey and Blanchard invented situational leadership. He was kind enough. I literally followed him around, served coffee, carried bags. I mean, I knew I wasn't him, just to be able to watch him work, right? And sure enough, I tried to do what he did. And one day he got double booked and he said, "Can you do what I do?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "I'll pay you $1,000 for a day." I was making $15,000 a year. That was 45 years ago to a kid from Kentucky. You know what I said? "Sign me up, coach." I did a program for the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company. They were incredibly pissed when I showed up. They were pissed. I wasn't him, but I got ranked first place of all the speakers. They called him back and said, "Send Marshall again." He said, "You want to do this again?" I said, "Do I want to do this again?" "Yes, sir. $1,000 a day. Sign me up, coach. I'm doing it again." That's how I got into leadership development. And coaching was the same. I was working with this guy who's the CEO of a big company. He said, "I got this kid working for us, young, smart, dedicated, hardworking, driven to achieve, arrogant, stubborn, know-it-all jerk." It'd be worth a fortune to me if you could turn that kid's behavior around. You know what I said? "I like fortunes. Maybe I could help him." He said, "I doubt it." I said, "Maybe I could help." That's when I came up with an idea. I said, "I'll work with the kid for a year. He gets better pay me. You don't get better. It's all free." You know what he said? Sold. He got better and I got paid. There was nothing called coaching. I made it up.
Wow. I mean, you sure did make up something that became such a huge industry today. Pretty mind blowing. Was that the story? I remember reading one of your, I've read several of your books. I don't know which one it was, but it was about the CEO. Everyone at work hated him. You know, he was one of those sort of classic office jerks.
Right.
And said, "Oh, but I'm never like this at home." And he said, "Oh yeah, we'll see about that." And you get some referencing, I think, from the family, and the family said, "Oh no, that's consistent. He's a jerk at home too."
Oh, yeah.
And it was sort of a, a wake up call. Like he was already, I think, if memory serves, financially back to that metric, he was already way, up there. Didn't need more money, but just didn't have true friends. His life was his work and alienated everyone around him.
I remember what I told him. I'll never forget.
Yeah, what?
I said, you really want to have a funeral that no one attends other than for business reasons, because that's where this train is headed. And I said, if it doesn't bother you, guess what? It doesn't bother me. It's your life. What do you want to do? And I was telling the truth.
And so the goal from a coaching session or sessions like that isn't to say, oh, I'm going to help you produce greater financial outcomes for yourself or your company. It's how can I make you a better person? How can I make you a better received leader? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. My whole area is helping successful leaders achieve positive long-term change in behavior. I'm not an expert on business at all. I know nothing about strategy or marketing, so I'm not an expert on the business side of business at all. Never claimed to be.
Well, you were, one of the pioneers, I believe, of the whole notion of 360 feedback, which once again, pretty ubiquitous today. And, I do a lot of 360 feedbacks myself as a leadership advisor, but, 99% of the time you're doing referencing with people at work. But you actually like to incorporate personal references, as you did with that individual, and you've done many times since. Why do you feel that's so important, pulling in personal connections there?
I mean, what's more important in your life? The people you work with who really, they don't know you really deep down. You're on your deathbed. None of them are waving goodbye. Or the people that seem to love you on occasion. Well, those people at home are more important than people at work. And so if I can help people improve relationships at home, it's more important than work.
Mm. And then part of what, once you do all this 360 feedback, and you tell them, here's your strengths and here's your areas of development, let's say, part of the process is the client, that CEO, let's say, needs to then go, if the right word is apologize effectively to their colleagues for their bad behavior and ask for forgiveness and help in getting better. I find it really interesting. Why is that important to acknowledge that and then, ask for help in getting better? It's clearly something that you feel is an important part of the process.
Well, I did a study on this called Leadership as a Contact Sport with 86,000 people. And the people that go to my courses and don't talk to people, don't follow up, don't do this stuff, guess what? They don't change. People do all this hard work, shockingly get better. Why should you apologize? Because basically you don't make excuses. You just sit there and own it. Now, I got a good article that says if you want other people to take responsibility, start with yourself. Okay, you want everybody else to take responsibility, Mr. and Ms. CEO. Step up and take responsibility for yourself. You make a mistake, own it, apologize. Don't blame anybody else. Take some personal responsibility and then just say, look, the past is over. I'm not going to change that. Give me ideas for the future, feed forward. Then they give you ideas and you listen and follow up and do it over and over and over again and get better. And it works.
You got a very, just sort of a no nonsense, let's just cut to the chase. Here's what's going on and here's how you're going to get better. And if you don't improve, then your money back and everything. I love that approach. But here's what I want to understand, which is, as I understand it, you don't like spending your time or the client's time on digging into their past. They start bringing up their childhood and you just sort of, cut it off.
Right.
But I guess just play devil's advocate, if you don't mind. Don't you think some sort of self-awareness of understanding why you're wired the way you are is important? I mean, you are probably, I don't know, I'm not a therapist, but you were growing up in this small Kentucky town in a rough neighborhood, your dad being a gas station. I mean, there's probably certain things there that are wired into you. And actually, I want to get to that because you say we can deprogram ourselves. But why is it so unimportant?
Number one, what you just said, I do not buy into at all.
Okay.
Wired in. What's that mean? That sounds like you can't change. The only people that can't change have incurable genetic defects. Unless you have an incurable genetic defect, you can change your behavior. Anybody can change their behavior. That wired in stuff is nonsense. Anytime someone says that's just the way I am, they're prohibiting themselves from changing. Anybody can change. People didn't get changed, I wouldn't get paid. I almost always get paid. Why? They can change.
I do agree you can change. Absolutely. That's not mutually exclusive from understanding what's behind some of why you're maybe.
There's nothing wrong with what you're talking about.
Okay.
Nothing wrong at all with it. Show me some research that people achieve significant positive change in behavior in 1 or 2 years from that. There isn't any. If you've got some, send it to me. There isn't any.
You mean from doing psychoanalysis?
Yeah. In 1 year, so you've achieved positive change in behavior as judged by other people beside yourself over a year and a half. If you've got a research study on that, please send it to me. Send it on. There isn't one. There's no research. Yeah, right. Yeah, there's no research. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think it's fun. It's a great idea. Learn about yourself could be very helpful. Yeah, you want to help somebody achieve positive change in a reasonable amount of time. Good luck on that one.
So it's nice, but your point is it's not going to sort of be additive in terms of helping to get to what the solution is.
Not in a year, year and a half, probably, right?
I gotcha. Well, you mentioned how we could be, programmed, if you will, from things that we grew up with, but there are ways to reprogram ourselves. And with you, I think you had mentioned that when you were growing up, I think it was your mother or your father that looked at you and said, not a mechanical bone in your body and never will be.
Right. My mother.
And you just sort of absorbed that, right? And took that into part of your persona, your identity. And later in life came to realize that, well, that's not true just because someone says it is. But can you talk about the deprogramming or reprogramming that maybe you went through and how does one do that in other areas when we're sort of hardwired from an early age?
I was at UCLA and I was asked you got to realize I was brought up in a small town. My mother went to college 2 years and she was a first grade school teacher. My father had this idiot idea. Women shouldn't work. Oh no, women shouldn't work. So we got to be poor. That was nice. Now the bad news is we got to be poor. The good news is 100% of her school teacher energy was devoted to one and only one person. Who was that? It was all about me, right? I knew how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide before I went to school. So you got to realize I'm programmed. You're smart. Did she want me to work in a gas station? Of course not. What else did you say? You have no mechanical skills. You will never have any mechanical skills. Never encouraged me around cars, tools. So I don't learn anything. All right. My parents, you don't know this. My friends, the kids are talking about a universal joint. I thought a universal joint was something people smoked. I take a test when I'm 18. The United States Army Mechanical Aptitude Test. I scored in the bottom 2 percentile of the entire United States. I was defeated by random chance. So I'm assuming, obviously, I have no mechanical aptitude at all.
Uh-huh.
I'm 26, getting my PhD at UCLA. The teacher, old Dr. Tannenbaum, says, what do you do well? Oh, scholarly pursuits, research, blah, blah, blah. What was the same? Smart, I am smart. What do you know good? I have no mechanical skills. I will never have any mechanical skills. So it's how are your mathematical skills? Oh, perfect score on the SAT math achievement test. Wonderful mathematical skills. Why is it you can solve complex mathematical problems, but you cannot solve simple mechanical problems? He said, how's your hand-to-eye coordination? I guess okay. Play pinball games, shoot pool, drink beer. He said, why could you play pinball games and shoot pool, but you could not hammer nails? When I was 26 years old, I realized there was only one reason I had no mechanical skills. I was told that. And guess what? I was told it, I believed it. And I see this all the time when I coach people. They say, I can't listen. I've never been able to listen. Why not? You got something stuck in your ears. Why can't you listen, right? Or I'm no good at recognition. Why are you genetically mean? There's no logic for this. Nobody has a gene that says you can't listen or you're no good at recognition.
Ideas were implanted and they became self-fulfilling prophecies.
Exactly.
So is there like an actual process one goes through to reprogram ourselves, rewire ourselves?
Sure. They all get confidential feedback. They all pick what they want to change. And I don't care, by the way. If people don't want to change, it's fine with me. I don't try to make anybody do it. I'm often asked the question, how do you motivate people to change that are not motivated to change? I don't. I've learned a hard lesson. My name is Marshall Goldsmith, not Jesus Christ. So I'm really not in the savior business. But people don't care. I don't care. It's fine. Don't change. It's okay. I just work with good people who want to get better.
One of your writings, you talked about that it's even at the CEO level, Marshall, right? There's at this, whatever you want to call it, the 99.99 percentile, where the best of the best of the best that rose up, they're running companies. There's still a separation between the good and the great, or maybe even the great from the exceptional. And you talk about some of these characteristics, and you mention that 3 traits that you see in the exceptional are courage, humility, and discipline.
Right.
Once again, given your philosophy that everyone can change, which I subscribe to, are these just CEOs that have been able to change more than others, or are there some innate abilities you're seeing in some of the best, the creme de la creme, that separate them from the others?
These 3 factors really are connected to getting better. It takes courage to look in the mirror. It takes humility to then you can improve. Mm-hmm. And it takes discipline to do the hard work. See, I give myself very high scores on humility. Why? I have someone call me to help me every day. Every day, someone calls me to make sure I do what I teach. Every day for almost 25 years. Why? My name is Marshall Goldsmith. I am way too cowardly and undisciplined to do any of this crap I teach by myself, and I need help. I need help. Well, it's okay. We all need help. People say, do you have a coach? I have somebody call me every day. I have no delusion about how hard this stuff is to do. It's incredibly difficult to do. I wrote the book. You think I could do this stuff? Please. That implies I've got all this willpower. Who's got all this willpower? I don't know all this willpower.
I was wondering if you actually, if one of the top coaches in the world has his own coach, and it sounds like, so you do have a coach.
I don't need weekly coaching. Oh no, that's daily for me, daily.
I remember, I don't know if you ever watched the show The Sopranos.
Yes.
I remember Tony Soprano, who had access to, in that world of the Sopranos and the Mafia, had access to the best therapist there was. And I remember being fascinated how after her session with Tony, she would then go to her own therapist. And I remember thinking like, oh, so even the best therapists have their own therapists. And so it sounds like same thing here in the coaching world, that even the best have to have someone that they work with.
There's a whole different thing between writing a book and living all the stuff you write about.
Let's talk about this book, Their Own Life, which, by the way, I love the book. It felt like a little bit of a deviation from the past.
It is.
It's moving away from what leadership means or what's important in life. But there's a definition, I'm going to sort of quote you here. We are living an earned life when the choices, risks, and effort we make in each moment align with an overarching purpose in our lives, regardless of the eventual outcome. Why doesn't the outcome factor into the equation? I know you're all about, measuring performance, however one defines that. Why does it not matter in this instance?
Well, let me give you an example. One of the people that endorsed the book was Albert Bourla. Albert was the CEO of Pfizer. And I said, Albert, I interviewed him a few months ago and says, Albert, how's it go last year? He said, oh, it was good. Real good. I came up with a vaccine. That was very good. I said, thank you. I appreciate that. And being alive, that's a good idea. And I'm an employee engagement, all-time high, stock price, CEO year, new book, that was great. Mm-hmm. I said, Albert, what's your problem? I said, I have a huge problem next year. Next year. You think anybody bought the stock at that price cares what he did last year? Nope. You think they care if they came up with a vaccine? Nope. That was last year. Next year. Well, if Albert's value as a human being is he has to beat last year, he can pack it in. He's not going to do it again. It's over. Michael Phelps, 25 gold medals. What do you think about doing after winning 25th medal? Kill himself. Why? Can't beat last year. One of the guys that's in the book is Safi Bakal. Now, the book is based on work I did with 60 people over COVID for 600 hours we spent with 60 amazing people, and their names are all in the book, so I'm the secret. And one of the people in the book is Safi Bakal. I don't know if you ever met Safi. You should interview him.
I did.
I'd love Safi.
Yeah, I interviewed him on the podcast a couple of years ago.
He's a great guy.
I like him a lot, yeah.
Oh, I love it. So Safi had a great realization. He learned something from Curtis Martin, who's a wonderful guy and a football player, number 5 rusher in NFL history.
Hmm.
He said, I learned from Curtis something. He said, I used to think that happiness was a dependent variable based on achievement. And if I achieved, I would be happy. But he said, I finally learned that happiness and achievement are independent variables, that you can achieve a lot and be happy. You can achieve a lot and be miserable. You can achieve absolutely nothing and be happy, and you can achieve nothing and be miserable. They're independent variables. And I said to Safi, well, this is great because, Safi, you already have a PhD in physics from Stanford. You've already started 4 companies. You've made tens of millions of dollars. You wrote a great New York Times best-selling book. You've consulted to presidents. If that is not enough achievement to make you happy, how much do you need? At a certain point, it's insane. He's already at 99.999 on achievement now. You really believe getting up to a 99.99999 is going to matter? Not really.
Yeah, no, it's no matter where you are. I mean, back to the mountain metaphor, right? There's always another peak to be climbed. There's always other people higher up on the mountain.
Sure.
No, I get the sentiment, which actually makes me think of part of what you talk about in the book is to have a good life, as you put it, that we've got to align 3 things: our aspirations, our ambitions, and our actions. So just to simplify here, the aspiration is the why behind what we're doing. The ambition is what we're trying to actually achieve. And then the actions are the day-to-day activities to get us there. And you talk about, and this is going back to your point here, that many executives that you coach get stuck in that ambition phase,
right?
That this excess desire for achievement. I take it not that they're lacking the achievement, but somehow it's not leading to what they're hoping, what sort of, I guess, mind state they were hoping to get to through those achievements.
They become addicted to achievement. If the history of the world, most people are stuck in the action phase. Yeah, most of our ancestors are very poor people. They just live day-to-day lives. They are kind of staying alive. And most people today, they play video games, show up, do their work, whatever. They're not bad people. They're at that day-to-day action level. Some people are lost in their heads, dreamers, great high aspirations. They don't achieve a lot, but they dream a lot. The people that I coach and the people that bought my book and the people listening to us right now are typically stuck in the achievement phase. Why? A tiny percent of people would buy a book anyway. A tiny percent of people would listen to this podcast. And these people are achievers. That's why they're listening. They want to get better. They want to do more. And a lot of things can happen when we get stuck in the achievement phase. One is we can forget the answer to the question, why? Why am I doing this? Exactly. Why am I working all this time? What's it all about? That's one. Or we can forget to enjoy life. Now, one thing I love is the marshmallow chapter. The marshmallow research, right?
Uh-huh.
This kid, they give a kid a marshmallow, say, you eat one, you get one. But if you wait, whoa, you get 2. So allegedly, the kids that eat one all become hopeless losers. The kids that eat 2 all become PhDs from Stanford are hugely successful. Right? It may have been a little overblown, but the message is delayed gratification is good. Almost every self-help, delayed gratification is good. Delayed gratification is good. Over and over and over. There's one problem with the research. You didn't take the kid that had 2 marshmallows and say, kid, let's wait a little bit more. 3, wait some more. 4, 5, 10, 100, 1,000. And where does our story end? An old man sitting in a room surrounded by hundreds of uneaten marshmallows waiting to die. Sometimes you got to eat the marshmallow.
What is behind your wanting to write this book now? Is this... we all get older, we get wiser, we realize what's important. I mean, I can't think of anyone that's got a bigger and better reputation in working with CEOs than you. You're the master. You built the industry. Is this partly saying, well, maybe there are other areas that are as important or more important than some of the things? What's behind it?
Well, I think you said it very well earlier. What you said is this book is different. It is different. See, historically, my coaching was all about helping successful leaders achieve positive change in behavior. Well, now the people I coach, half of them are billionaires. So what am I supposed to do? One guy said, well, I'm supposed to boost you up from 4 billion to 4.1 billion? Who cares? What does it matter anyway, right? I'm really now much more focused on just trying to help people have a good life, be happy, have a good life. Because they've already achieved so much anyway. So what? What am I supposed to do? Help them achieve? Safi, let's achieve a little bit more. It's not like getting achieved enough already, right? Now just really much more focused on helping people have a good life. So the book in that sense is quite different. This is not really a business book at all. It's a philosophy book. So I think you said it. You said it very well. You picked that up from the get-go. It's just different.
And then part of what you talk about in terms of once you identify what's important and what you're trying to reach for, that you've got this system. I think it was sort of adapted on some other system from somebody else, but sort of, built it your own. This called a life plan review. This is maybe going back to the person you talk with now every day or weekly or what have you, which is essentially, as I understand it, like an accountability tool, a way of having other people to help you stay on track to what's important. Can you talk more about this and how I know you did a lot of this over the pandemic.
Yeah. So Mark Thompson and I, we're restarting it again, by the way, right now.
Okay.
So Mark Thompson and I, we just invited all these people and they meet every weekend and they evaluate their performance every day. They use the same process I do daily. And then at the end of the week, it's like a report card. It's kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous for successful people. They stand up in groups of like 8 or so. Say, my name is, and here's what I did well. Here's what I knew better. And then we practice feed forward. They always ask, this is a Buddhist technique, feed forward. You ask for ideas, you listen, you say thank you. You don't judge, don't argue, don't critique. You just say thank you. And they do it over and over and over again. And they love it. Because one guy said, I love it because I have accountability without being judged. Nobody's putting me down. They're all saying it's lonely at the top. Oh, it used to be lonely at the top. Today, it is lonelier at the top. It is so lonely at the top. You can't say or do anything anymore. You're afraid of social media. People making fun of you. One guy said, I really love these groups. Why? 1 hour a week, I get to act like a human being. 1 hour a week, I get to act like a human being. Yeah. And, it's wonderful. So we're starting it again coming up October, the first weekend in October. We're restarting the process. People like it. And what they like about it is everybody tries to help each other. And we don't have a sense of community anymore. I don't live where I was brought up. I don't know, but you probably don't either. And, we don't have much sense of community. And having like a support group of people that are there to help you is nice.
Sounds like a great program. And I take it, though, since you work with a lot of these overachievers, that, back to the point of what's it all about, this isn't about helping one another on running their business or doing things around accomplishments. This is more around accountability on some of your life goals. So you don't have to mention names, but what are the kinds of, goals that people are thinking about that have already achieved as much in business life as they're probably ever going to? What are some of the things that sort of come up?
Well, they're not all business people either.
Okay.
One of the people, remember Pau Gasol, the basketball player?
Yes.
So he's in a group. Curtis Martin, the football player. Telly Lung played Aladdin on Aladdin Broadway. He's in the group.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wow.
So we got all kinds of, we got the head of the Olympic Committee and St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And we got all kinds of people from different walks of life in the group. We got thinkers and Safi's in the group, We got all kinds of different people in the group. And so they're not just business people. And basically, they just try to help each other with whatever. Sometimes it's behavioral issues at work. I'd say more than 50% of the dialogue, though, has nothing to do with work. More than 50% of the dialogue is home. So one of the guys is Pau Gasol. Pal's a great guy. So they made a documentary about him training for Olympics. So he's in our group, right? So he's working on trying to be more present at home. Present, which is nice. He's a really good guy, and he wants to be a good husband. He wants to be more present. So, okay, he says, so how'd it go? Not so good. Not so good. I'm tired. And my wife said I was there, but not present. He said I was tired. So you got any ideas? I said, now, pal, my son and my son Brian and I, we paid $1,000 a piece to watch you play the Boston Celtics there in Game 7. Remember that game and won a world championship? Oh, yeah. You're running up down the court like a maniac. Oh. And Phil Jackson called timeout with 2 minutes to go. Were you tired? He said, oh, man, I was exhausted. You can't even believe it. I said, did you go to Phil Jackson? Say, Phil, I'm tired. Tired, Phil. I'm tired. Maybe you ought to take me out, Phil. I'm a little tired. He said, I never told a coach I was tired in my entire career. So I said, do you think your wife was impressed? Well, it's hard for us to remember this stuff. It's hard for us, and it's harder for many of us, most of us, me, all of us, when we go home, or we're not in a role. We're not in a role. We're not in a role. We're not in a fixed place where we're supposed to be. We know how to act. We go home, we relax, and all of a sudden, we're not careful. All that good stuff is gone. All that discipline, the way we treat people, as you mentioned, emotional intelligence, out the window.
We talk a lot about, your clients and what your clients have gone through or going through. I mean, I think of you, Marshall, right? I mean, you're one of the greatest coaches ever. You have been as successful, quote unquote, in your world as your clients have in their world. And I'm just curious, if you sort of put the mirror on yourself, did you get to a point where you said, okay, well, what is there left for me to do? Like, I have coached all the greatest CEOs, and you've pretty much built this entire industry from the ground up, and probably not too much left to be done from a career perspective. And so, or have you always just been really good with balancing, given the Buddhist, sort of adoption you had early on in your life?
Well, I mean, to me, it's like you never, quote, get there. There's no there. And I'm really proud of, I'm 73. This is the best critically acclaimed book I've ever written. It's 73. I'm proud of that. Yeah, Bob Dylan has a good saying, who's not busy being born is busy dying. Now, Glenn, I don't have to be talking to you right now, Glenn. Let me tell you what I could have done that I sacrificed to be on this session with you. Do you know what I could be doing, Glenn? I could be playing crappy golf with old men at the country club while eating chicken salad sandwiches and discussing gallbladder surgery. But you're right. I don't really want to do that. I'd rather talk with you. Better than chicken salad.
That's good to hear. Because had you said the gallbladder discussion would be better, I need some work to do on my end for sure.
So anyway, look, I like what I do. My higher aspiration is I want to help as many people as I can in the limited time I have left to do it. And I'm 73. I don't have forever to do this, number one. Number two, ambition is just trying to do things like specific things like a book or talk to you. And then my action is just enjoy the day-to-day process of life.
Yeah. Well, what I like about a lot of this is you don't have to be a CEO. You don't have to be an executive. You don't have to be in business. Like, to your point, this is really a toolkit for anyone. To me, there's the accountability part of it, but there's also really reflecting on what you want to be held accountable to. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle, which is what is important in life and what do you want to, set those goals to. And I think the only reason to need a tool like this is because we're falling short, right? There's a disconnect between what we think we want to do or what we say we're going to do and what we actually get done, and hence the need. So somehow there's a gap here. And it seems like this is a great way to bridge the gap and help us get on our way.
See, what you said is very well put. It just means you're a human being. That doesn't stop. I mean, it doesn't stop after you write books or make money or achieve stuff. You're still just a human. You wake up in the morning, it's a new day. It's a new day. And every day you wake up, it's a new me and starting over again in life. That's one of the major themes of the book. Is Buddhist theme is impermanence. There isn't this permanent place you get to where everything's going to be okay and it lasts forever and all that stuff. There's one type of book that always has the same ending, and they lived happily ever after. That is called a fairy tale. That's a fairy tale. That's not the real world. In the real world, there is no happily ever after place. Every day you start over. You begin over and over and over again. Every day we do good things, and every day we screw up. It's okay.
It's getting me thinking on something sort of related here, which is, as you know better than anyone, over recent years, there's been this shift in how companies, again, I hate the word success, but, performance, what's important, and going from sort of just focus on stock price.
Right.
To looking at not even just employees, but broader set of stakeholders, the community and the environment and everything like that. And so as CEO, you've got to be a little bit elastic and be able to sort of, take on a lot of these other areas. And has the opening up, if you will, of what's important from a corporate perspective, have you seen a change, a shift in what these CEOs care about, or having them sort of reflect, because there's so much, intertwined between one's personal mission and corporate mission and everything? Like, is it almost being forced upon you? Do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think a great role model in that concept called stakeholder-centered leadership. I'm going to give a plug here to my good friend Alan Mulally. He went to Ford. The stock was 101. He left, it was 1840. Stock went up 1,837%. He had a 97% approval rating for every employee in the union company. He's an amazing human being. He's writing a new book now. I'm helping him. It's called Stakeholder-Centered Leadership. And it's just about what you said. It's about really connecting with all stakeholders and how you do that. And he's like, to me, the role model of how to make that happen. And it's not easy. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. And I think I wrote an article in Chief Executive Magazine. And I'm always asked this question, are leaders worse today than ever? Are they more bullies than ever? And it's such a nonsense question. Did you ever read a history book? How the pyramids get built? Yeah, sure. They wasn't participating management. They had whips, right? Yeah, I mean, come on. Are leaders worse than ever? More bullies? It's a nonsense. It's just nonsense. In the old days, a medical doctor used to routinely scream at interns, swear at them as a matter of course. That was life. Leaders are nicer today than they have ever been by far, and they get more negative feedback. Why? Well, Peter Drucker said, we're managing knowledge workers today, and they have different expectations, and they know more than their boss does about what they're doing, and you can't just tell them what to do and how to do it. It's a new world. And although I think leaders are better than ever, the expectations have gone up faster than the improvement in leaders have gone up. So leaders are getting more negative feedback than ever, not less, despite the fact that they're better leaders than ever.
Marshall, when you reflect back at your life and your career that you've had and think about what's behind your becoming one of the greatest executive coaches, I mean, certainly we talked about timing. Timing is everything, of course, right? And there's, like, I interview some incredible people on this podcast, and there's a serendipitous thread in anyone's life that just goes without saying. So obviously, you're there and you're on the cusp of an industry that hadn't even emerged yet. But over time, it became much more mature. There are a lot of people throwing themselves into it, thousands of coaches, millions of coaches, certifications out there. And you've continued just over the decades to really, stay on top. Is it stylistically, you think, the way you approach it that's allowed you to be so successful? Is it, do you have any thoughts in terms of what is it that just not got you to sort of help create the field, but really stay on top of the field?
I want to go back to one thing you did say. A lot of it is just timing, number one. Number two, luck. Number three, the people who are my mentors and helped me so much. People like Alan Mulally and Paul Hersey and Kim Blanchard and Warren Bennis and Francis Hesselbein. These people were so nice and helped me all the time, and they never charged me money. So as you know, one thing I do now is I adopt people. I have this program, and I give away everything I know to as many people as we can. All my material you can copy, share, download, duplicate, change, modify, put your name on it. I don't care, please. I give everything away. Why? What am I saving it for? I'm not saving it for any reason. And like one woman in our group, it's called 100 Coaches, is Nankande. She's using a lot of my stuff with high potential leaders in Africa. I'm not going to do that. But I feel good every time she does something to help them. If maybe I'm helping a little, me too, I'm helping a little. And then Julie Carrier's helping young girls. I'm not going to do programs for young girls. On the other hand, if she uses my stuff and it helps young girls indirectly, I'm helping her. And Sally Helgson wrote a great book called How Women Rise. I was a second author. It was 85% her, 15% me. I helped a little bit, and it's a wonderful book, and it's helped a lot of women. I'm not an expert on women in leadership, but she is. I'm helping her. So as I've grown older, I want to do a lot more of the second author helper role, where I'm not the primary person, but like I did with Sally Helgson and Nankande and Julie Carrier, I'm just helping other people.
I think it's great that you're doing that, by the way.
Thank you.
And I think that will create, huge wakes upon wakes in terms of its magnifying effect. I end all the interviews, Marshall, with the podcast here. It's called The Art of Excellence. I didn't want to have the podcast be defined by success because it felt too narrow.
Right.
I like this word excellence, and I like hearing how guests think about that word. And does it mean anything to you when you think of that word? What comes to mind?
Well, for me, basically, you need to be focused on achievement that is consistent with something that's meaningful to you, a higher purpose. And you need to enjoy it. And to the degree you enjoy the process of what you're doing and it's connected to a higher purpose or it's meaningful to you. By the way, I can't define meaning for you, but you got to define that for yourself. I can't tell you what makes you happy. You have to do that. On the other hand, to the degree you can do that, you pretty much won the game of life. That's what matters. And the people that, I like what I do. It's important to me. I'm achieving something and it's connected to something that's meaningful. You won. That's assuming you're healthy and you've got some kind of like middle class income and you're got good relationship with people you love. That's it. Unless I'm missing something, that's about all there is.
Reading through it reminded me, I don't know if you knew Clayton Christensen.
I did, yeah.
He was a professor of mine in business school years and years before he became famous. And of course, Innovator's Dilemma and at least one or two others. But my favorite book of all, and I can't think of the name right now, but it was his last book he ever wrote before he passed away, which had to do with how to measure your life.
Right.
And it was just taking a very scientific approach to a very non-scientific philosophical topic and I think I reread it, 3-4 times over, just because of its power to really have you think about what is important and what should you be measuring. And this book had, different book, but same kind of, tone, which is, it's not around how do I get, better in my field or more successful or climb a ladder. It's about how to, think about what's most important. And you're really good at not just talking philosophically, but putting action plans in place and exercises. And here's what you need to do to get off your seat and stop reading and start putting it into play, which I think is great. And would love to find a way to do that myself. So I love the book. I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Thank you. Hey, thank you.
Loved reading it. Loved spending our time here, Marshall. I know how busy you are. And this is a big gift for me, for you spending this time.
Well, thank you for inviting me because, like I said, let's take our little podcast show. All right. Let's imagine that, 2 or 3 people have a little better life. That's all. Just maybe 2 or 3 people have a little better life. You know what? That's good enough for me.
Hey, thanks for listening. Okay, don't go yet, please. 2 favors. I ask simply 2 favors. One, if you could please download the iTunes app. You could do it on your phone. You can do it on the computer. Take 60 seconds and leave a review. It means a lot. 2, you can find my episodes on several social media sites, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Find the one that you like the most. Find the one where you tend to have a lot of friends and followers. And if you could please either share it in the case of Facebook and LinkedIn or retweet it on Twitter, that would mean the world to me. So those are the 2 asks I have. I love putting together this podcast. I hope you enjoy listening to it. Thank you so much, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.